Okay, so hello everyone. This is the very first project. And on this project, we are looking at finding data to the data bridge. Now, this is the code for the program. The first part of the code, and this part, we look at adding columns to our data table. Most of the columns and then the other thing. Here we add rows with some dummy data from our video. And now when we run this, we should have something like this. We have this as our output. So we have the six rows that we have in our code, and then the respective data that we had in it. Now let's look at our second program. Uh, In this program, we are looking at adding rows to the data grid view using the text boxes. Now this is our code. Now, with this part of the code, we have defined the function. This part of our code, like the first program, here we add the columns to our data table with the name of the columns and name. Then now we set the data grid view data source as the data table. We come down here and then we add rows to the data table using text boxes. In this line here, we now set the data grid view data source again. Now this is the basic design. So once we run the program, we have this. Now this. So if I want to add the data to my program, I can do that through this point. Select an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, first name, and last name of RD, age of 25. Once I click add, you realize that that has been added to my data table. So that's pretty much how this data works for this program. Third program on the list, we have this is, this is the third program on our list. So now here we look at selecting rows from the data grid view to text boxes, or as a selected row from data grid view to text boxes. We declare our table columns here. Then we add a bit of dummy data here. Now we load the data table data to our data grid view. Now this is the interesting part. Here we create the data grid view self with event. So here we get the index of the selected data grid, the data grid view. Sorry. Then we come and then show the data from the selected row to the text boxes here. A little bit of the design. This is how it looks like. So if I am to start this here, and to start the program, well, it's not a very complicated program. And to start this here, this is what we have here. If I click on the second row, you see that all the data in that row is inside our text box here. Third row, same thing. Fourth row, same thing. Simple program. Next program we have on our list is the first one. Now this is the program. Now, with this program, we are looking at updating the big data grid view using the text boxes. The previous program, we're looking at showing the data in those rows via the text boxes. This time, we're looking at being able to update the data grid view using the text boxes. So we have this sample here. We look at pretty much adding the colors to our data table. We look at adding some dummy data and setting the data from the data table to data grid view. Then we have the self-hosted event here. So we get the index of the selected data grid view. We come here, we show, we display the data from that data grid view. Now we come down here, we have something interesting. Now we create, we are supposed to have a button where we can update. Now when you decide to update the table, we need to create a new row, and then we need to create the text boxes where it can take new user input and then append. This is how it looks like if I'm to run the program, example of that program. We have this here. So we take this. Let's say I want to do this text. Once I click on update, you realize that the value at first name has changed here. That's pretty much it. We should be able to update. Nice program. Now let's move on to the next program on our. Now this is an interesting program. Now with this, you're looking at adding and updating. So adding, updating, and deleting a data grid view. Here we set our columns and add columns to our data table. The name of the columns is applied. We have our dummy data here. As you can see, we set data from the data table to the data grid. Then here, now here, this code here looks at adding a row to the data grid view from the text box. Then here we look at getting the selected rows values from the data grid into text boxes. So we have this part where we get the index of the selected data grid view. And here we show the data from the selected view to the text boxes. Now that's an adding value. So adding data to the data grid. If it's updating, we see this here. So add a new, declare the row, get data from text boxes to the row. Yeah. Yes. Then if we are looking at deleting, and deleting is quite simple. Yeah. We set the button to just delete the row. So the data gives you one that shows at the index. That's the one that's selected. Same design. If we are to run this program, we have this here. So we have this. Let's say I take this row. We have the values here. I decide to delete that. You see that we don't have that entry. We don't have that particular row here. It's interesting. If I want to update the first name, I can do that here. So instead of SSD, I can do that DDD. Then just click on update. Then we have that nice program. If I want to add another entry, you see, I added this entry here below. Fantastic code. I think I like this one. Now, let's look at the next program. Seventh program on our list is going to be quite the exhaustive list, but okay. Now, seventh program, we are looking at adding raw data using the input box. In a way, it looks like a version of the previous one. with reduced capabilities. But let's do it. Now, this part of the code looks at getting data from the input box. Then we add a row to the data table. This line here pretty much handles how you use the data source via the data gateway. Pretty simple. As you can see, simple design. We run that program. We have this uh, add a row. We have this MP here, ID of this. Okay. We have a little bit of this. So it works perfectly. Oh, okay. So the row data can negative one. So okay. Let's restart our program again. Let's add a row again. You click on OK, first, let's make this, and lastly, let's make this ID. Okay, enter the user, 25. We have our entry here. Okay, that's understand. So this is our entry here, and work like it was supposed to. Now let's move on to the next program. Next program on our list is the ninth program. I think this is the eighth program. And we're looking at the ninth program. Now, ninth program, we are looking at updating a data grid view using the we have something similar. So here we decide to populate that with the data sample that we data. Then we get the index of the selected. Now, here, this code here gets the data from the input box. And then this part of the code looks at the section rows inside raw data. And this is a view. If we run the program, we have this is our output. This is what we have if we select the first one and let's click on undo selected, we can enter a new ID. Let's set it as 8. Click on OK. Let's leave everything the same. You realize that the ID has changed. Perfect. This is how a machine is supposed to work. Once you tell it what it's supposed to do, you get that as a result. You just need to know how to do it. So this is what we have here. Next program on our list. We have the 10th one. And so this is our next program. So add, update, so adding and updating the using the input box. So it's pretty much like the last three programs we looked at. Just that we are compiling this into one program. So we are not going to talk much about this. You can see here, populating the data grid view, some data. Then we added the button, getting the data from the input box. We insert data into the table here. Then the important part are the self-click events. So here we get the index of the selected row. Then this is the button update row. So here we select the get the data from the input. We can insert data to run that. So this our program. We have the option of updating the, let's say we want to add an ID of 8. Okay. First name is, okay. Last name is Adi. Whatever. We click on OK. We can select the age, let's say 37. Okay. I realize that this has been added in our input. Kind of select it. Now we can update the row. So here we have HTTP. Let's say I want to change the, let's maintain the ID. Let's change the first name to Francisca. Okay. Let's change the last name to Hardy. Okay. Then the age we can say 34. You realize it has been updated here. Not for this program. Next program is the 11th program. This program, we are looking at populating the data grid view with images. So here, I create a data grid view. This part of the program, create a data grid view, set header text in the columns, make the image layout, and kind of stretch it to display the entire image. This is basically just a bit of transition that on the picture that I'm deciding to add. Now, this is where we add the picture. So I have a series of pictures on my system. Here you can see the path to those pictures. So I just pick 5 random pictures on my system. You can see those pictures here. You see those pictures. These are just random pictures I had on my system and I decided. Like if I'm stuck, I realize I'll be able to see that in my program. Okay, this looks a bit stretched out, but I still achieved my goal. On to the next program. Now, the next program, adding image to the data gives you from picture box, picture box. So here, I mean, same as the initial. So we create a data grid view image column. We set the header to the column here, as you can see here. And we have a button to load image into the picture box. So this is where we look at the whole addition of the image to the picture box. Here we have the option to choose the image. These are the formats that I have specified. Format program, kind of cool, right? And we have the button add image. I think you guys would better understand this if you understand. If I run this program, we have this here. I click on browse image. I have the option to select a picture. I have a lot of pictures, not a lot, but have some pictures. But these are some wallpapers. So let's click on open and let's click on add. Do you realize what we have here? So we have an ID and then the image itself. This is clear. The next program. Okay, so this is our next program. Getting image from data grid view to the picture box. We are trying to get the image from the data grid view to the picture one. Okay, let's look at the problem. Now let's look at the private sub function. So this part is going to explain it to you firstly. So here we create the data grid view. We set the header text to a column, make the image layout stretch to display the entire image. We add the column to the data grid view, make the column take all the data grid views, and then we change the data grid view height to the specified height right there. Now I added some sample images here. So I selected them from my system. You can see the images right here. If you are creating this program yourself, you'll need to add the image yourself to the system. Then we have the self-click event. This is what we have. So this is where the whole thing to the picture box happens. The click to design happens. This is it. If you look at the design, we have two distinctive parts of the program. This is the data grid view, and this is the picture box. When I selected the initial image here, you realize I appeared down here. Let me select myself. You see that I can see myself here. Also, this stressed like a lot, but yeah, I still achieve my purpose. You see, when I click on an image in the how do you call it, the data grid view, I'm able to get that in the picture box right here. It's kind of cool program. If you want to program nowadays, yes, uh, what's this program? Now we are looking at updating the data grid view row image using the picture box. The previous program, we looked at getting the image from the data grid view to the picture box. Now we are looking at updating. So we do our basic shenanigans on the picture, creating data grid view image, setting header, making the image layout, blah blah blah. We can perform any transformations we want to the image. Now let's come here. Here I decided to use the sample images that are that's how the data. So create a register. Then we have the cell create events. And this is the part that gets the image from the data grid view to the picture box. This right here. Yes. Then here we look at browsing the image into the picture box. And all this happens because of this button update image. The button that's supposed to actually update it. Let's let the program to handle it. Okay, let's do this. Let's update the on to the next program. Here we look at adding a checkbox to the data grid. So this here we look at adding a checkbox column to the data grid. We add a bit of rules here. Now this is basically supposed to show. Now we have set some of the values to true or false. That's for the design of the checkbox. So some are checked, some are not. If it's true, it means it's checked. If it's false, it's not checked. So all these in our code are true. The rest that are not checked out for next program. Now there's our program. Here we look at the data grid view check box. So check it. Now here we are. So this program is basically supposed to help us know whether a checkbox is checked or not. That's the whole true or false kind of check. Where true means it's checked, where false is not checked. That's what you see here. So this is handling all that. Now we can do that by the click of a button. This is pretty much initializing the thing to actually check the cell. Let's run this program so that I have a view. Now let's check some of them and leave some. Let's see check cells. First one is not checked. Second one is checked. Third one is checked. Fourth is checked. Fifth is not checked. Fifth is checked. Seventh is not checked. Eighth is checked. Ninth is not checked. Tenth is not checked. Sample program. Look at that. And it's true. Come on, let's go to the next page. Okay, so now here, look at the VB. Here we look at the deleting the grid rule of a checkbox. Now, let's give this part. Yeah. Here is basically part of the form initialization where the form override is supposed to train at the component list. And then the important part, sorry, that was the designer part. This is the process part. So we create the text columns, we create the checkbox column, we add the columns to the data grid view. Then this is dummy data, dummy data. Button delete check. That's our program. Let's look at that. That's a beautiful program. Yeah. Look at this. Delete. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Do you realize that every row I pretty much checked? Once I click delete, we were able to delete those rows. Simple. It means that our code is working 100%. The next program. Now this is our program. So here the data gives you column cell max value. Now, so here we are going to look at a row with a number of values. We are going to look at being able to check for the maximum value in the table. So that's the program we have here. Maximum value, maximum value. So we decided to populate the data with some data here. If you look at that, we decided to select random data between 20 to 65. The rest is open first name, last name. Now, this is the first method to help us calculate the yield. Yeah, so that would be a fatal error. But we are good. So now this. So from row as data grid view, where row is this value, select this. So this we are looking at selecting all the rows, I mean the values in all. And this part handles the whole check based on this criteria. If I is equal to 0, then max is the data grid view. If not, then it's not the max value. Let's look at it in action. So we have our program here. If you realize we have a lot of values in here, 64, 29, 57, 48, and so on and so forth. Now, do you see the value we have here? We have 64 here. This is telling us that the maximum value in our table is 64. And if you look through, that is true, like 100%. Next program on the list, 22, 22. This is the next program on the list. Now we are looking at finding the average value. So it's pretty much like the first one where we decide to initialize with the same between the first name, last name, and then random values from 20 to 65. Now here we are looking at the average between those rows of cells. Interesting program. Now let's come here. Same method as the first one. Here we are looking at selecting all those rows. And this is what does the whole averaging for us. You know how average works, right? So we have a sum of all the values and the positions or the numbers of the respective values. So if there are 10 values, we have the sum of the values over 10. Pretty much. This is where we have this. So sum over the number of rows. So let's look at this in action. Now this is what you can see here. We have a number of values. 37, 27, 21, 32, 41. I think you guys should do this. So you guys can take your calculators. Now add up these values, divide them up, and then you realize that you get to 7.667. That's very interesting. You guys can leave that in the comment section. Next program. Next program is the 23rd and 23rd and 23rd. Yeah, we are looking at the average sum, maximum, and minimum values. So it's the past three programs all in one, all in one. If you realize throughout the whole video, we create respective programs, and then at some point we try to add up everything we have learned into another program. This is the same. So here we looked at the average, the maximum, minimum value. Here we are going to put all that in one program. So you can see this here. Now, first we look at populating the data grid view with some data, same as before, random values. Then you create a function for each. So this is the function for summing the values, function for telling us which one is the maximum value, which one is the minimum value, and then calculate obtain our beloved average. Then here, I mean, we see the full-blown calculation here. Minimum greater or equal to what you can see on my screen. Here, this is for the average. Then we have the textbooks to display all that information. Let's start that program. Let's have a look at it. Now, with the randomly generated values here, we have been told the sum is 514. The maximum value in here is 64. We can verify that ourselves. You can see this here. Minimum value is 20. 20, truthfully, that's the minimum value. And the average, we have the average calculated for it right here. Isn't this long? Now let's look at the last program for the day. Last program for the day. This is our last program. Now, this was actually my favorite thing throughout this whole course or this whole study session. Here we are looking at data grid view with coloring, like the coloring you did in Crutch. We are looking at something similar. So we decided to fill our program with some dummy data here, as you can see. Then we set the data grid view data source at the data table. Now, this is the interesting part. This is where the row coloring happens. So we set the values for red, orange, yellow, light green. And then this. If the values are equal to zero, we have this operation running on this. I think you guys will see how the program works. It's quite beautiful. Looks like rainbow colors. This is what we have. What's beautiful than this? So we have this as our program. See the colors, the distinctive colors, sounds Philippine and all. I mean, to me, it's beautiful. Now, thank you. This is the end of our session. I think I'll continue to release more YouTube videos on this. Hope you guys enjoy. See you next time. Bye.